Hi, I'm Jenna Jacobs. I did my project on the character of Joseph from the movies Creep and Creep 2. The general setup of these movies is that they're found footage videos where Joseph hires random people that he finds online to come and video him for a day. The story changes every time. He's done this several times. We find out by the end of the first movie it's a very habitual thing that he does, even though he makes it sound very special each time. And he has several personality traits and characteristics that are indicative of schizotypal personality disorder, including odd patterns of thinking and speech. He asks very odd questions, a lot of questions. When the first videographer pulled up, he asked him when he saw the axe in the driveway if he thought that he would murder him with it, one of the first things. He doesn't seem to be able to have any close relationships. He never mentions any close friendships or even familial relationships. There's only one mention of a sister who just acknowledges that he is troubled at one point. He has very odd behaviors. He wants to be filmed doing weird things. In the first movie, he had his first videographer film him completely naked in a bathtub, giving an imaginary bath to a baby that he wasn't planning on having. He's very suspicious and paranoid. When he feels like his videographers are getting close to the point of leaving him, he will tell lies to keep them interested, such as the point of the first movie is that he has a cancerous tumor, which he does not. When he senses that videographer is about to leave, he hides his car keys and makes up stories about raping a wife that didn't exist to make him feel like he has to keep filming him. He's very impulsive, and he thinks very oddly about the relationships between men and women too, specifically. With his second videographer, one of the first things he does is he gets completely naked in a room with her because he feels like he has to break down that barrier which exists between all men and women, which is the question of what do you look like naked. And of the big five personality traits, openness has the highest score with schizotypal personality disorder, which seems very true with Joseph. There's not a whole lot that he won't do. And of the big five personality traits are disinhibition, negative affectivity, his mood changes so fast, antagonism, and psychoticism, which we will see all of these. And in one specific scene that he wants his videographer to film, where he's comparing himself to Jesus, which he does several times, a bird starts chirping and he just cannot handle that this bird is ruining his perfect moment. And then he tries to fix the situation as best he can before eventually throwing a temper tantrum and running off into the woods when the bird won't follow his perfect plan.
December 1978. It was the last days of disco. The Cold War was just heating up. But in a small town. Little bird right there. Hold on. December 19. It's like a bad joke. Hey! One more. Try it one more time. One more time. I want you to do it. I want you to do it. Hey! No! 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 This is my movie!
Based in psychoanalysis, his personality is very id-based, very impulsive. He does things for his own pleasure, and he wants everything else to revolve around his pleasure and go the thing he wants to. He uses a whole lot of projection. He's very, I can do this thing, but you cannot do this thing. And he does this with his second videographer specifically too, because again, he asks lots of questions all the time, and as soon as she starts asking him questions back, he just tells him to save it and calls her out on asking a bunch of questions. So for Joseph's origins, we don't know a whole lot about his origins. There's really absolutely nothing mentioned, but he does seem to have an anxious attachment style, because he craves these intimate relationships with people very strongly, but he cannot seem to find this healthy balance. So he probably had really extreme inconsistencies in his childhood. The typical age of onset for schizotypal personality disorder is adolescence to young adulthood. One study reported that 55% of individuals with SPD had their onset by the time they were 20, and around 14% reported being affected by the age of 14. And one incident when he was 15 does relate to this time range, of course, for where this could have started in him. He went out to a bar one time, snuck in underage, and he was kidnapped and nearly beaten to death. And in an act of self-defense, he was actually able to overpower and murder his assailant. And he said that he just felt the universe open itself up to him. He knew this was his calling. This is what he was supposed to do. And then he said that he laid there naked with his victim to absorb a part of his personality. And he says he does this with every single one of his victims. So he's absorbing a piece of their soul every time, which again is relating back to the odd ideas and beliefs and superstitions and behaviors of schizotypal personality disorder. According to Erikson's psychosocial stages, this incident probably helped him resolve the crisis he was in around that age of initiative versus guilt, where you're trying to figure out what is your job in this world, what are you supposed to do. And just because you've solved this crisis in your life doesn't mean that you've solved it correctly, or in a way that's beneficial to society, that society would agree with. And Josef obviously did not solve this in a healthy way. And by the end of the second movie, he has admitted to his videographer that he is in fact still a virgin, and he has started feeling feelings for her, and he doesn't know how to accomplish these feelings or move forward with or what to do about them, suggesting that he is currently stuck in the intimacy versus isolation stage, and he, given his past, was unable to keep healthy relationships with individuals or even friendships. He's very struggling with how to move out of this stage. And if he doesn't move out of it, he won't ever be able to move on to the next stage with it, which is active versus stagnation. And the treatment options for schizotypal personality disorder are very similar to most personality disorders, including a combination of psychotherapy and medication. Drugs commonly used are antipsychotic, anti-anxiety, antidepressants, mood stabilizers. Josef is very, very moody and very anxious, so he could probably benefit from some anti-anxiety medication. And he would probably also benefit with psychodynamic therapies that focus on unconscious conflict and resolving those. And especially with SPD, that relationship with the therapist is very, very important in overcoming your troubles. So Josef needs to find a therapist who will give him that unconditional positive regard he needs. There is a Creep 3 in the works, so maybe we'll see some treatment options in there since they are not covered at all in these movies. And that's Josef in a nutshell, basically. Hope to see more of him soon. Thank you for watching. See ya.